What is the status of Indian economy? We are hearing news that world is leading for recession, especially developed countries. Growth is not that much encouraging. Whereas, then what is the position of Indian economy? According to opinion of many international and international institutes, the Indian economy is likely to grow at 7% in the financial year 23. India's economy is likely to grow 70% in the current fiscal year, marginally higher than some recent independent estimates. According to many international financial institutions, the Indian economy is likely to grow at 7% in the current financial year 23, marginally higher than some recent independent estimates made. According to the first official numbers for the period released, the Indian economy is going to grow at 7% during the financial year 22-23. Both Reserve Bank of India and the International Monetary Fund have forecasted for 6.8 growth in 23, whereas the World Bank has projected 6.9%. There is not much difference between 6.8 and 6.9%. The Reserve Bank of India and International Monetary Fund has expected India's economic growth at 6.8%, whereas the World Bank is expecting the Indian economic growth at 6.9%. Gross domestic product (GDP) has grown at 8%, 8.7% in 22, boosted by the pandemic-induced low base of the preceding fiscal 21 year. Indian GDP has also increased by 8.7% in the current financial year. Nominal GDP growth without adjusting for inflation is seen at 15.4% in 23, sharply higher than 11.1% assumed in the budget. According to the first advanced estimates released by the National Statistical Office (NSO), according to the budget estimate, Indian GDP growth was 11.1%, but according to National Statistical Office, the actual growth in GDP is more than 15% for the financial year 22-23. If the absolute fiscal deficit will be projected 16.6 lakh crore, the higher growth will depress the gap to 6.1% of GDP in financial year 23, compared with 6.4 estimated in the budget. The budget estimated the fiscal deficit of 6.4% of GDP, whereas because higher growth of economy, the gap is going to reduce and it will come down. The fiscal deficit gap will come down. Fiscal deficit will be at 6.1% of GDP for the financial year 22-23. This suggests that despite the global headwinds and continued geopolitical uncertainty or friction, the recovery is on track, though there are some pressures or disturbances or global issues. The Indian economy is moving ahead. The recovery of Indian economy is on right track. Of course, there may be slow compared to the expectation, but the recovery is in better condition. The gross value added is expected to rise 6.7%, slower than the 8.1% growth seen in financial 22. Gross value addition is expected to increase to 6.7%, which is lower than 8.1% in the financial year 21-22. On the expenditure side, private consumption 7.7% and investments as measured by gross fixed capital formation 11.5% are seen supporting growth, while the global slowdown will curb net exports, denting overall GDP growth. On the expenditure side, the private consumption is at 7.7% and investments are increased at 11.5%, which is supporting the growth, even though there is a global slowdown which will affect the export opportunities for Indian manufacturers. The investment rate is expected to rise to 29% of GDP from 28.6% in 22 and 26.6% in 21. The improvement in investments by Indians is expected to rise to nearly more than 29% of GDP from 28.5% in 22 and 26.6% in 21. It means Indian investment, domestic investments rate is also improving from 26% in 21, 28% in 22, 29% in 23. This is the investments are pillars of Indian economic development. The improvement in investment rate is the highly supporting the economic growth and economic development and employment generation, wealth creation for Indian economy. This makes the Indian economy strong compared to better than the expectations of the expected 7% expected growth is at 7% for the financial year 22-23. GDP growth had grown at 8.7% in 22, boosted by the pandemic. Pandemic included low base of the preceding 21 financial year. The International Monetary Fund have forecasted the 6.8% growth for the year 23, whereas the World Bank is expecting the Indian growth at 6.9%, whereas the actual figures of National Sample Organization UNESCO expects the Indian economy will grow at 7%, which is better than compared to previous years of 21-22 and 2021. Also, the most advantageous situation is the improvement in investment rate, which was 26%, 25.6% in 21, increased to 28.6% in 22, and increased to 29.2% for the year 23, which investments will encourage will act as strength, will make the economy strong and comfortable and advantageous for wealth creation, infrastructure development, employment generation. Every economic development activity increases the wealth and quality of service, productivity, employment generation, everything, it multiplies. Every improvement, every growth will multiply, will help for further growth. It means every growth, every development will multiply, will help for multiplication of further development. Every improvement, every growth is most welcome, especially for Indian economy. The growth at 7% is most welcome, and the major contribution for growth is the service sector, which is providing a lot of revenue, a lot of income generation, and the loans given to service sector are also more compared to the industry sector. Now there is a ample scope for improvement in manufacturing sector, which is lagging behind in further expansion of its capacity. So there is a lot of scope for investment opportunity or investment financial support to working capital support to manufacturing sector, and also expansion of its capacity. There is a scope for further growth or further improvement in the economic development, which means the Indian economy may grow faster, more than 7% in the financial year for forthcoming financial year 23-24.